In the heart of Chicago's bustling culinary scene, one woman's dream is simmering with ambition. Emma is a gifted chef working tirelessly at a club bistro, pouring her heart into every dish, hoping one day to own a place of her own. She's talented, determined, and fueled by passion, but not everyone in the kitchen wants to see her rise. As whispers turn to sabotage, Emma finds herself fighting more than just recipes and reviews. While a jealous rival works behind the scenes to unravel her career, Emma leans on her closest friend, Noah, humble, supportive, always there when she needs him. But what Emma doesn't know is that Noah has secrets of his own. He's not just a friend. He's a silent force with the power to change everything. When sabotage escalates, reputations crumble, and love is tested, Emma must confront the biggest truth of all. Can trust survive when everything is built on silence? This is a story of betrayal, quiet loyalty, and the kind of love that stands in the shadows until it's forced into the light. Will Emma discover the truth before it's too late? Will love rise from the ruins of deception? Hit subscribe for a journey filled with heart, heat, and high-stakes drama, because in Veil of Valor, secrets don't stay buried for long. The sizzle of garlic and hot oil filled the narrow kitchen at a club bistro as Emma Rivers worked with focused intensity. Her hands moved quickly, stirring, plating, adjusting, each movement precise, like a well-rehearsed performance. Saturday dinner rush in downtown Chicago was brutal, but for Emma, it was where she felt most alive. "Table 7 needs their duck, Emma," barked Chef Renaud, voice sharp above the din. "Already on the pass," Emma called, sliding the perfectly plated dish forward, wiping the edge with a practiced flick. Across the line, Sophia Mendoza watched with a clenched jaw. She dropped her own plate with a bit more force than necessary, her gaze following Emma like a shadow. Another compliment from the floor. One of the servers grinned as he passed. "That food critic from the Tribune loved your halibut, Em." Emma smiled, flushed from heat and adrenaline. "Thanks, Jamie." Sophia rolled her eyes, muttering just loud enough for Emma to hear, "It's not hard to impress people when you play it safe." Emma stiffened. She turned, meeting Sophia's eyes. "It's not about playing it safe. It's about understanding flavor." Sophia gave a tight smile. "If you say so." The kitchen noise swallowed the tension, but Emma felt the chill linger. Sophia had been at Éclat longer, more experienced, older by a few years, but Emma's natural flair, and the attention it brought, clearly rubbed her the wrong way. Later, after the last plate had left the kitchen and the crew cleaned down the stations, Emma leaned against the back door with a bottle of water, catching her breath. Her apron was streaked with sauce and her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She didn't mind. This was the life she loved, but it was getting harder to ignore the rent notices and unpaid student loans stacking up on her kitchen table at home. "Good service tonight," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Noah Bennett leaning casually against the brick wall. Tall, easygoing, with warm brown eyes and a gentle demeanor, Noah had been a frequent customer who quickly became a friend. Emma wasn't sure what he did exactly, something in consulting, he'd once said, but he was always supportive, always present. "Tell that to Sophia," Emma said with a soft laugh. "I think she'd rather I tripped over my own feet." Noah offered a sympathetic smile. "You've got something special, Emma. It's not just talent. It's heart. That kind of thing threatens people who've learned to rely on ego." Emma looked at him, a little surprised. "That's more insightful than usual," he shrugged, grinning. "I have layers." She took a sip of water, then confessed, "I'm trying to save up. My own place. Just something small. Something I can shape from scratch." "Your own restaurant?" Emma nodded, a quiet longing in her voice. "It's probably a pipe dream, but yeah, I've been working on a concept for years. Neighborhood-driven, seasonal ingredients, kind of rustic chic. But banks don't exactly throw loans at chefs with college debt and no collateral. Noah's gaze lingered, thoughtful. "You'll get there," he said. "Maybe not the easy way, but people like you don't give up." Emma smiled, heart warm from his words. "Thanks, Noah. That means more than you know." They stood in silence for a while, the hum of the city wrapping around them. Neither of them knew what the next few weeks would bring, the betrayals, the trials, the secrets. But for now, under the soft glow of the alley light, one woman's dream flickered quietly into life, and one man silently vowed to protect it, no matter the cost. The next morning, Eclat Bistro buzzed with quiet tension. The praise from last night's service still lingered in the air, but so did something colder, like smoke that refused to clear. Emma moved through the prep kitchen, sleeves rolled up, humming softly as she chopped heirloom tomatoes for the lunchtime caprese salad. She felt good. Her halibut dish had drawn attention, and the food critics' compliments had spread faster than the kitchen gossip. But Emma had been in this industry long enough to know that success often drew shadows. Sophia stood at the other counter, slicing onions with mechanical precision. "Heard you got lucky with the critic," she said flatly, not looking up. Emma kept her tone light. "He liked the dish, I'm glad." Sophia's knife paused. "You didn't invent citrus butter poaching, you know." Emma glanced up, surprised. "I never said I did." Sophia shrugged, resuming her chopping. "Some of us have spent years perfecting technique, not just winging it and charming people." Emma didn't answer. She could feel the bitterness radiating from Sophia, but she wasn't about to fan the flames. Not now. Not when she had momentum. Still, by the time the lunch rush ended, Emma noticed side glances from two of the other line cooks, then whispered conversations that stopped when she entered the room. Something was being said. Something she couldn't quite catch. That night, she met Noah at a corner table in their favorite hole-in-the-wall cafe on Belmont Avenue. It was the kind of place that served chili with cinnamon and gave you extra cornbread without asking. Emma stirred her spoon absently, shoulders tight. "You okay?" Noah asked, watching her carefully. "I think Sophia's trying to turn people against me," Emma admitted. "She said something weird this morning, and since then it's like the whole vibe has shifted." Noah frowned. "Said what exactly?" "She implied I'm taking credit for techniques that aren't mine, that I'm basically winging it." "That's ridiculous. Your food speaks for itself." Emma gave a tired smile. "In most kitchens, that should be enough. But in places like Eclat, politics matter, favoritism, legacy. Sophia's connected. She knows how to plant seeds." Noah leaned forward. "Do you want me to say something?" "To who?" Emma asked, raising an eyebrow. "You gonna march into the bistro and demand justice?" Noah smirked. "Maybe not that dramatically, but you shouldn't have to fight this alone." She appreciated the offer, even if she brushed it off. Noah didn't know the culinary world, how insular it could be, how reputations were made or broken with a whisper. Still, his presence calmed her, made her feel less alone. What Emma didn't know, what no one at Eclat knew, was that Noah Bennett wasn't just a good listener or an occasional dinner companion. He was the CEO of Horizon Ventures, a multi-million-dollar investment firm specializing in hospitality innovation, a man who could fund an entire restaurant with a single call and make careers with a well-placed endorsement. But none of that mattered to him when it came to Emma. She had no idea about his wealth, and he intended to keep it that way, at least for now. He wanted to see how far she could rise without anyone pulling strings. But watching her shrink in the face of unjust sabotage stirred something protective in him. That night, after walking Emma home, Noah sat at his sleek, minimalist desk in his lakeshore apartment, fingers poised over his keyboard. He opened a secure channel and sent one message. "Reach out to Sam Drexler at the Chicago Tribune. Ask if he's free to visit Eclat next week. Suggest the halibut." He hit send. Maybe he couldn't say something out loud, but he could tip the scales, just enough for the right eyes to see what Emma could do. The following week at Eclat Bistro, the mood shifted like steam rising from a hot pan, subtle but undeniable. Word had spread that Sam Drexler, the notoriously selective food critic for the Chicago Tribune, would be dining at the restaurant that Friday. His reviews had launched careers and closed kitchens. The staff moved with extra precision. Pans clattered less, knives sliced with a little more focus. Emma tried not to let the pressure show, but her heart raced with anticipation. She hadn't expected Drexler to visit so soon, if ever. She couldn't afford to believe it was luck. She just had to deliver, and she did. Her scallop dish, seared with miso brown butter and paired with a charred corn puree, was the talk of the night. Drexler nodded through the meal, took notes discreetly, and left without a word. 2 days later, his column hit the city like a gust of wind. The soul of Eclat isn't in its legacy dishes, but in the creativity emerging from its newest talent. Chef Emma Rivers brings clarity and soul to her food in a way that commands attention. A quiet powerhouse. Emma read the words twice, then a third time, her hands trembling. She stepped into the back hallway of the bistro, just to breathe. "You okay?" asked Jamie, the server who'd delivered Drexler's meal that night. She nodded, her smile wide and disbelieving. "Yeah, just processing." Inside the kitchen, applause broke out. Even Chef Renaud gave her a nod of approval during pre-service, muttering, "Impressive." But not everyone clapped. Across the room, Sophia watched from her station, jaw tight, knuckles white on her cutting board. Later that night, as Emma mopped the prep area and hummed under her breath, Sophia approached her. "You've got quite the streak going," she said, her voice deceptively light. Emma glanced up, cautious. "Guess so. You ever wonder how Drexler even found his way here? He doesn't just stumble into neighborhood spots." Emma's brows pulled together. "No clue, but I'm grateful." Sophia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You must be." After she walked off, Emma stood still. The mop paused mid-stroke. The doubt Sophia planted was subtle, but it lingered like bitter herbs in a sweet sauce. Outside, the wind whipped through downtown Chicago, but inside a penthouse apartment overlooking the lake, Noah scrolled through Drexler's column for the 5th time. He allowed himself a small smile. She deserved every word. He hadn't expected Drexler to respond so quickly, or so enthusiastically, but Emma's cooking had spoken for itself. And now, the city was listening. Dante, his head of operations, leaned against the doorway. "You're cutting it close, boss." Noah looked up. "What do you mean?" "If Emma starts asking questions, it won't be long before she figures out someone nudged Drexler. She's too focused right now. She thinks it's luck or timing. And when Sophia figures out someone's backing her," Dante asked, more serious now, "you think she'll go quiet?" Noah's smile faded. That was the problem with moving pieces in the dark. Eventually, someone shines a light. "Keep an eye on Sophia," Noah said. "If she makes a move, I want to know before Emma does." Back at her apartment, Emma was too wired to sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, a cup of mint tea growing cold beside her. Drexler's words echoed in her head. Commands, attention. She should be celebrating, but something inside her stirred uneasily. Why now? Why her? Still, she wasn't about to let doubt overshadow her breakthrough. Whatever had brought Drexler through the door, she'd earned his praise on the plate. That part, no one could take from her, not even Sophia. Friday night arrived like a storm front. Tables booked solid, the wine list updated, and a VIP party expected for a private 10-top in Eclat's exclusive glass-walled room. Emma stood at her station, her mise-en-place pristine, her knives lined like soldiers ready for battle. She could feel the buzz in the air. Tonight was important. A local philanthropist and his out-of-town guests were scheduled to dine, and Chef Renaud had handed Emma the main entree course, an herb-crusted lamb loin with pomegranate glaze and truffle farro. A huge responsibility, a huge opportunity. "Everything prepped?" Renaud asked, stepping up behind her. "Yes, chef," Emma replied confidently. He gave a rare nod. "Let's make it count." Service started smooth. Appetizers flew out without a hitch. Emma's station moved like clockwork. Sauté pan hot, garnish in place, hands steady. She double-checked the lamb marinade, which she'd prepared herself the night before. But as she opened the container, a sharp, almost metallic scent hit her nose. She frowned, dipped a spoon, and tasted it. Too salty. Way too salty. And the texture, wrong. Thickened, like something had been added. Her stomach turned. "Sophia," she called, glancing across the kitchen. "Did you touch the lamb marinade?" Sophia didn't even look up. "Nope. Been on veg duty all night." Emma didn't have time to argue. She tossed the batch and remade it on the fly, her fingers moving fast, heart pounding harder than the sizzle from her pan. 20 minutes later, the VIP entree went out. Emma wiped down her station, pretending calm, but her chest was tight. Then it happened. 5 minutes later, the maitre d' rushed into the kitchen, face pale. They sent the lamb back. Said it was bitter. Undercooked. Emma's stomach dropped. Chef Renaud strode toward her, eyes narrow. "What happened?" "I remade the marinade, chef," Emma said quickly. "The first batch smelled off, like someone tampered with it. I didn't risk it." He took a deep breath. "You should have said something sooner. Now it's on us." "I did what I could," she said softly. "That's not good enough on nights like this," he snapped, turning away. The silence in the kitchen afterward felt suffocating. Emma stood frozen, shame and confusion gripping her throat. She couldn't prove anything, but she knew that marinade had been altered, and only a few people had access to it. Later, while wiping down counters, she caught Sophia talking to another line cook, voice low but smug. "Guess some people just aren't ready for the big stage." Emma's fists clenched, but she said nothing. Not yet. At a corner booth near the back of the restaurant, Noah watched the scene unfold. He'd seen Sophia whisper, seen the chef's anger, seen Emma's proud posture wilt just slightly. His jaw tightened. After dinner, Noah slipped out quietly and made one call. "Rob, it's Noah. I need you to reroute a shipment from Aubrey Farms. Lamb and produce, top grade. Send it to Eclat. Label it as a chef's courtesy. Tell them it's from an anonymous donor." "You got it," the voice on the other end replied. He hung up, exhaled, and looked up at the bistro's glowing sign. Emma didn't deserve this. Not the whispers, not the sabotage. And while she might not have known who had her back yet, she would soon. The next morning, Emma arrived early. A delivery truck pulled up just as she was unlocking the kitchen. "Shipment for Chef Rivers," the driver said, handing her a clipboard. Emma blinked. "I didn't order anything." "All paid for. Anonymous." Inside the boxes, premium lamb cuts, heirloom vegetables, organic herbs, all twice the quality of Eclat's usual supply. She stared at it, baffled. Sophia passed by, eyes narrowing. "Looks like someone has a secret admirer." Emma ignored the jab, but her mind spun. Someone was watching. Someone was helping. And she didn't know whether to be grateful or worried. It started with a ping. Emma woke early, still groggy from another late shift, and reached for her phone on the nightstand. A notification from a culinary blog she followed glowed on the screen. Up-and-coming chef Sophia Mendoza drops her secret recipe collection, inspired by Years on the Line. Emma clicked the link. Her heart stopped. The first image was her lemon thyme creme brulee, right down to the speckled plate and a signature microgreen garnish. No credit, no mention, just Sophia's name in bold. Emma scrolled faster, each photo stabbing deeper. The braised oxtail ragu, the rosemary cornbread she'd been perfecting for her future menu, even her handwritten chicken marinade, copied word for word. She sat up in bed, pulse hammering. Her recipe book. It had gone missing a week ago. She'd assumed she'd left it at home, maybe loaned it to Jamie or another cook, but deep down, she'd felt it. Like a thread had been pulled loose and she'd ignored it. Now she knew. Sophia had stolen it. Emma dressed quickly, threw her hair in a ponytail, and rushed to éclat. She stormed through the back entrance, fists clenched. Sophia was already prepping vegetables at her station, humming to herself. Emma walked up to her, barely containing the fire in her voice. "You published my recipes?" Sophia didn't look up. "Excuse me?" "The cornbread, the brulee, my chicken marinade, they're all mine, Sophia. You stole them from my notebook." Sophia finally met her eyes, a smirk forming. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been developing those recipes for years. You didn't even change the descriptions." "Look, Emma," she said, voice dropping just loud enough to carry, "you're not the only one with ideas. Maybe it's time you stopped thinking the world owes you credit just because you scribbled something in a journal." Emma's breath caught. The line cooks paused what they were doing. Chef Renaud stepped in moments later, drawn by the tension. "What's going on?" Emma turned to him. "She stole my recipes and published them online under her name." Sophia raised her hands. "I created those dishes. There's no proof she did." Emma opened her phone, showing the photos of the original pages, some with grease stains, some with time-stamped notes. "I have photos of everything. Dated. These are my originals." Chef Renaud looked between them, visibly uncomfortable. "We'll look into this, but until we do, both of you, focus on the service." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat and turned back to her station. Humiliation, fury, helplessness. But mostly heartbreak. That night she stayed late in the empty kitchen, wiping down counters just to move. Her phone buzzed. A message from Noah. "You okay? You've been quiet." Emma stared at the screen. She wanted to tell him everything. But how do you explain the ache of being stripped of your own voice? Instead, she typed, "Not great. Bad day. Talk tomorrow?" Noah read the message from his desk in the Horizon Ventures office, jaw tight. His team had already flagged Sophia's blog post. It had gone semi-viral among local chefs. What no one else knew, though, was that Noah had his own cyber team trace the IP. He now had digital proof the site had been uploaded from Sophia's apartment. He forwarded the evidence to a legal contact anonymously, along with a note. "Ensure Emma gets credit. Don't mention my name." He leaned back in his chair and exhaled. He'd wanted to let Emma rise on her own, but she was being silenced, stolen from, framed. And if no one else was going to protect her legacy, he would, from the shadows if he had to. Emma stood behind her booth at the Logan Square Food Festival, eyes scanning the crowd that had begun to gather. It was a crisp Saturday morning, and the buzz of excited conversation floated through the air along with the scents of roasted garlic, sizzling meats, and warm cinnamon pastries. A week ago, she wouldn't have imagined herself here, much less as a featured chef with her own tasting station, but then the invitation had come. "Chef Emma Rivers, we'd love to have you showcase your work at this year's festival. Your cooking deserves a wider audience." No signature, no return email, just an RSVP link and a warm welcome. She'd hesitated, but something in her gut told her to say yes. Now, as she finished plating the last of her smoked carrot and farro salad with dill creme fraiche, the line had stretched halfway across the green. "Are you the one who made this?" a woman asked as she took a bite, eyes wide. Emma nodded, flushed. Yes, ma'am. From scratch this morning. It's phenomenal, the woman said, holding up her compostable fork like a trophy. You've got something really special. A few feet away, Noah stood under the shade of a vendor tent, ball cap pulled low, watching the exchange. His heart swelled as he saw Emma's face, confident, radiant, finally free from the weight of éclat's kitchen politics. The festival had given her more than exposure. It had reminded her who she was. He'd pulled some strings, of course, donated to the festival anonymously, called in a favor with the organizer, but everything else, every bite, every smile, every bit of praise, was hers. Emma's phone buzzed in her apron pocket, a text from Jamie at Eclat. Chef Renaud just saw the Tribune's feature on the festival. You're in the headline. He's actually smiling. Miracles happen. She smiled. A rare win. It felt good. Better than the critic review, better than any shout-out on social media, because this time no one else could claim it. Back at Eclat, however, Sophia sat in the break room, scrolling through the festival coverage on her phone. Emma's name was everywhere. She narrowed her eyes at one photo. Emma, smiling behind her booth, standing beside a man in a dark ball cap. She zoomed in. The man wasn't tagged. No name listed, but Sophia had seen him before, once, briefly, when he'd come in for dinner and sat at Emma's table longer than most customers, Noah. She frowned. Something didn't add up. Emma always called him a friend, but he never seemed ordinary. Sophia prided herself on reading people, and that man didn't move like someone used to taking orders. He moved like someone who gave them. She made a note on her phone. Noah Bennett. Investigate. That evening, Emma and Noah sat on a park bench overlooking Lake Michigan, the city skyline glowing behind them. You pulled this off today, she said, nudging his shoulder. I know you had something to do with the invite. Noah kept his gaze forward, the corners of his mouth curving. I may have sent a whisper in the right direction. Emma chuckled. Why? Because watching you shrink in that kitchen made me angry, he said quietly. You're meant for more than what they're letting you be. She looked at him, heart tugging in ways she hadn't expected. Thank you. Really. Their eyes held for a moment, long enough to acknowledge something unspoken, something growing. But neither pushed it. Not yet. As they stood to leave, neither of them noticed Sophia 2 benches down, her phone camera angled just enough to capture their profiles. She had all she needed. The cafe on Michigan Avenue was small, stylish, and sparsely crowded on Tuesday mornings. It was also Sophia's choice. Noah arrived precisely at 10:00 a.m., as requested in her vague but urgent text. We need to talk, privately. He spotted her instantly in the back corner, dark blazer, perfectly parted hair, and that unmistakable smile that meant trouble. He sat across from her, calm and unreadable. So, Noah said evenly, what's this about? Sophia sipped her espresso. You're not who you say you are. He said nothing. You walk like you own the city, she continued, and after a little digging, I know why. Noah Bennett, CEO of Horizon Ventures. Real estate, restaurants, digital media. You've got your hand in everything. Quietly, of course. Noah didn't blink. What do you want? Sophia smiled. For you to back off. He leaned back, folding his arms. From Emma, she said, voice hardening. She doesn't need your invisible strings. She doesn't deserve the spotlight you've been handing her. Noah's jaw tightened. She earned everything. No, she didn't, Sophia snapped. You've rigged the game. Drexler, the food festival, the mystery deliveries. You thought no one would notice? Noah stayed silent, his stillness more threatening than any raised voice. Sophia leaned in. I won't let you turn her into your charity project. If you don't pull back, I'll make sure Emma knows exactly who you are and what you've been doing. You think that will scare me? Noah asked quietly. I think it'll break her. The words hung heavy between them. Sophia picked up her phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward him. A photo of him and Emma at the festival, another on the park bench, a clipped shot of his Horizon Ventures profile. Try me, she said. Noah stood, towering over her. Do what you want with me, but leave her out of it. Sophia smirked. You're underestimating me, Mr. Bennett. He didn't respond, just turned and walked away, anger pulsing in his temples. But Sophia wasn't finished. Not yet. Later that afternoon, she met with a Claus inventory clerk under the guise of menu planning. With a casual air, she waited until his back was turned, then slipped 2 small jars, expensive caviar, into a brown bag and tucked it beneath her coat. After hours, when the kitchen was empty, she placed the bag neatly into Emma's locker, just enough to spark suspicion, just enough to cast doubt. The next morning, Emma arrived to find the kitchen unusually quiet. A few glances were exchanged, then quickly averted. Chef Renaud stood near the dry storage room, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Emma, he called. A word. She followed him into the small office. We found something, he said, opening the locker room camera feed. A granny still showed a brown paper bag being removed from her locker. Someone said inventory was short, he continued. We checked. 2 jars of Osatra caviar. Missing. Emma's stomach dropped. What? They were found in your locker. That's not possible. I didn't. Chef Renaud didn't raise his voice. I have no proof you stole them, but the optics are bad. I need to suspend you until we finish reviewing everything. Emma's voice cracked. You think I'd risk my job for that? I don't want to think it, but it's my job to investigate. She felt the ground fall away beneath her. Walking out of the kitchen was the hardest thing she'd ever done. No one looked at her, not even Jamie. That night, Noah waited outside Éclat in his car. When he saw her step out, shoulders hunched, eyes glassy, he knew. Something had happened. She saw him, hesitated, then turned the other way. He called after her, Emma, please. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Because whatever Sophia had planned, it was working. Emma sat in the back booth of an empty coffee shop, a half-full mug growing cold in front of her. She hadn't touched it. The overhead lights buzzed softly, but the usual hum of comfort this place brought her was gone. She stared blankly at the table, her Éclat name tag tucked inside her coat pocket like a bruise. Suspended. Accused of theft. Humiliated. She hadn't answered any calls that morning. Not from Chef Renaud, not from Jamie, and especially not from Noah. Her heart thudded at the thought of him. He'd been there last night, waiting, calling after her, and still she walked away. She didn't know why, or maybe she did. Because part of her wondered, had he known something? Had he helped, without telling her again? Had he been watching the whole time? The whispers, the anonymous favors, the things that just always seemed to go her way when Noah was around. It didn't feel like coincidence anymore. And now, with her reputation in shreds, she didn't know what, or who, to trust. Across the city, Noah stood in the high-rise office of a private investigator named Michelle Reyes, arms crossed as she scrolled through surveillance footage. I isolated the locker room camera, Michelle said, fast-forwarding through grainy black-and-white frames. That's your girl's locker, right? He nodded. Yeah. Michelle pointed. There. 10:47 p.m. Someone enters the room, pauses. That's Sophia. Noah leaned in. Sophia glanced around, pulled a paper bag from under her coat, and slid it into Emma's locker. Clear. Intentional. Undeniable. I knew it, Noah muttered. She set her up. Michelle turned to him. What's the play? Noah's jaw tightened. I get this to Renaud anonymously, with the timestamp and footage link. He'll do the rest. Michelle raised an eyebrow. You still not telling Emma? He hesitated. Not until I have everything. She deserves the full truth, not another half reveal. By late afternoon, Emma walked along the edge of the Riverwalk, coat drawn tight against the wind. The city skyline stretched above her like steel and glass armor, while inside she felt paper thin. Her phone buzzed. A text from Noah. Please talk to me. I can explain. I need you to hear me out. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering. But the exhaustion was louder than her curiosity. She slid the phone back into her pocket. Back at Eclat, Chef Renaud sat in his office, reviewing the email he'd just received. From Anonymous at Proton Mail. Com, subject. Watch this before you fire the wrong chef. Attachment. Locker room, footage, Watchtene, 80p MP4. The file loaded. He watched silently. After it ended, he closed the video and leaned back, stunned. The pieces clicked into place. Sophia's smugness, the quiet way she'd dodged confrontation, the timing of Emma's suspension. He stood, his decision already made. Noah sat in his apartment, phone on the counter, unread messages blinking. He paced, stopping only to glance at a copy of Chicago Eater Weekly, still open to the spread on Emma's festival performance. Her photo, beaming, proud, seemed like a different lifetime. He picked up his phone and typed, I never meant to hurt you. I only wanted to help. But I should have told you the truth. About me. About everything. Then he hit delete. She deserved to hear it in person. At that same moment, Emma arrived back at her apartment, keys trembling in her hand. She opened the door and dropped her bag with a sigh. Then she saw the envelope on her kitchen table. Her name, handwritten, no return address. Inside, a single USB and a note. Truth is a dish best served without disguise. You were never alone. Her breath caught. She stared at the drive for a long time before reaching for her laptop. Because maybe, just maybe, there was still time to fight. Emma clicked play. The surveillance footage filled her laptop screen, grainy but clear enough. She watched, heart in her throat, as Sophia slipped into the locker room after hours, glancing over her shoulder before sliding a paper bag into Emma's locker. Her breath caught. Proof, finally. She rewound it twice, making sure her eyes hadn't played tricks. No timestamp manipulation, no edits. Just undeniable evidence of what she had already known deep down. Sophia had framed her. But the question that gnawed wasn't just who. It was how this footage had gotten to her. Who had sent it? The note hadn't said. Only, you were never alone. A truth that felt like both comfort and a warning. Across the city, Noah sat in his car parked outside Eclat, engine off. He watched the kitchen's back entrance, counting minutes like breaths. Chef Renaud had called him earlier, discreetly, to say the footage had reached him too. I've seen enough, the chef said. She's done. Noah had asked him not to tell Emma just yet. He needed to do that himself. He picked up his phone. Still no reply from her. Still no blue check marks. He was losing her, one unread message at a time. Inside Eclat, Sophia paced in the pantry, jaw tight. Something had shifted in the air. Jamie hadn't smiled at her today. The kitchen assistants barely looked up when she entered. Even Renaud had been clipped and cool, eyes sharp and unreadable. She tugged her phone from her pocket, typing quickly. To unknown contact. Did you send the video or not? I thought we had a deal. No reply. She gritted her teeth and deleted the thread. The walls were closing in, and fast. Back at her apartment, Emma printed a copy of the footage stills and packed them with the USB drive in a small folder. Her heart still raced, but this time it wasn't fear, it was clarity. The fog was gone. The doubt lifted. She reopened her laptop and began drafting a menu proposal, a new one, for her own restaurant. She wasn't done cooking, she was just getting started. The next day, Chef Renaud called a staff meeting after lunch. The tension in the kitchen was thick. Emma, to everyone's surprise, walked in just before it began. Gasps, a few awkward greetings, and one long, burning glare from Sophia. "Let's be clear," Renaud began. "This kitchen has no room for sabotage. We all rise or fall together." He turned to Emma. "Your suspension is lifted, effective immediately. I apologize for the mistake." He faced the rest of the staff. A locker room camera captured someone placing stolen goods in Emma's locker. That person is no longer welcome at Eclat. Sophia scoffed, incredulous. "You're going to take her word over mine?" "No," Renaud said. "I'm taking the footage's word." He handed her a sealed envelope. "HR will call you by end of day." Sophia's hands shook as she snatched it and stormed out, head high but jaw tight. Emma stayed rooted in place, breathing evenly. It wasn't triumph, it was justice. But the questions still remained. Who had sent her the video? Why hadn't they come forward? And why did Noah's name keep circling in her mind like a thread she couldn't pull loose? Later that night, she found herself back at the Riverside Cafe where they used to meet, and, as if drawn by gravity, Noah was already there. Their eyes met. "I saw the footage," she said softly. "Someone sent it to me." Noah nodded. "I know." "You?" "I needed you to be okay," he said, "even if you never spoke to me again." Emma looked down at her hands. "Noah, there's more to you than I understand, and I'm starting to think you've been hiding more than just help." He exhaled. "You deserve the full truth." The Eclat annual gala glittered with chandeliers, crisp tuxedos, and champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes. Every year, it celebrated the restaurant's rising stars and signature innovations. But this year, there was tension woven into the luxury. Unspoken whispers, curious glances, and one undeniable truth: Emma was back. She entered wearing a sleek black dress, her posture upright, calm, steady. She had nothing to prove, because the truth was already unfolding. Noah arrived minutes later, not as her escort, not yet. He stayed by the entry, scanning the room with a quiet intensity. Sophia, dressed in crimson and diamonds, made her entrance with practiced flair, moving through the crowd like she still owned the narrative. She hadn't given up, not yet. As the speeches began, the head chef took the stage and praised innovation, resilience, and integrity. Emma's name was met with modest applause, polite but restrained. Then Sophia made her move. She stepped forward, uninvited, holding a folder of printed emails. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she began, all faux grace, "but I believe this kitchen deserves full transparency. I have reason to believe that one of our chefs has accepted undisclosed favors and special treatment, possibly even bribery, tied to this year's food festival spotlight." A murmur broke out. All eyes turned to Emma. Sophia held up a printed screenshot. Anonymous donations, VIP invitations, untraceable contacts recommending her dishes for features. If we reward dishonesty, we corrupt our own craft. Emma stepped forward, her face calm but flushed. "You're really doing this again?" Sophia didn't answer her. She turned to the crowd, voice rising. "I have the documentation, and I will submit it to HR and the board if this isn't properly investigated." The chef looked ready to intervene, but another voice cut through the silence. "No need. Noah said firmly from across the room. Everyone turned as he stepped into the spotlight. He wasn't the bookstore Noah anymore. Tonight, he was someone else entirely. "I'm Noah Bennett," he said, voice steady, "founder and CEO of Horizon Ventures." Gasps swept the room. Emma's knees almost buckled. He continued, "Yes, I've supported Emma Carter because I believe in her talent, her integrity, and her vision. I've done so privately because I didn't want my name or status to define her success." He pulled a second folder from his coat pocket and handed it to the chef. "This is everything. Financial records, transfer trails, documentation. There were no bribes, no violations, only anonymous support to lift a worthy chef when others tried to break her." Sophia paled. "And," he added, turning to her, "here's the footage of you planting stolen goods in Emma's locker, already delivered to HR, already verified." Silence. Sophia's hands trembled. "You manipulated everything. No," he said softly. "You did." Chef Renaud stood, face grim. "Sophia, your access is revoked, effective immediately. Security will escort you out." She didn't fight. Not anymore. She walked through the crowd of stunned guests like a ghost. Afterward, Emma sat on a bench outside the ballroom, knees bouncing, heart loud in her chest. Noah approached quietly. "I wanted to tell you. 100 times." She looked up, voice raw. "You're Noah Bennett." "I was always your Noah first," he said. "Everything else, I kept hidden because I didn't want you to fall for a resume. I wanted you to trust me." She stared at him, expression unreadable. "You knew how much that trust meant to me." "I do," he whispered, "and I know I might have broken it, but I never lied about what mattered." She didn't answer, not yet. But she didn't walk away either. The next morning, sunlight spilled across Emma's apartment floor, but it did nothing to warm the chill in her chest. She sat at her kitchen table, cradling a coffee mug that had long gone cold. The headlines on her phone were relentless. "Mystery, CEO revealed as chef's silent backer at Eclat Gala." "Sabotage scandal rocks Chicago's culinary scene." "Horizon Ventures Noah Bennett breaks cover to defend rising star chef." She set the phone down with a heavy sigh. The world knew everything now, but it was the silence between her and Noah that hurt the most. A soft knock came at her door. Emma opened it to find Chef Renaud holding a slim envelope and wearing an expression that was surprisingly apologetic. "I owe you more than just a reinstatement," he said. She stepped aside to let him in. Renaud handed her the envelope. "This is a formal apology from the Eclat board, and a permanent offer. Head of menu development. Your own tasting series. Full creative freedom." Emma blinked. "That's generous." "It's overdue," he said. "We failed you, but you never failed us." She nodded, touched but unsure. Her mind was still full of Noah's face under the ballroom lights, full of quiet pain and truth. "Will you accept?" he asked. "I need a little time," she said softly. Later that afternoon, Emma found herself in Grant Park, walking paths she'd traced 100 times. She spotted Noah near the fountain, staring at the skyline. When he saw her, he stood, but didn't move toward her. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I didn't think I would either," she replied honestly. They stood there in the breeze, city noise humming faintly in the background. "I wanted to tell you so many times," Noah said quietly, "but every time I got close, I panicked. I didn't want the way you looked at me to change." "You mean the way I saw someone kind, humble, generous?" she said, folding her arms. "Because those things didn't disappear just because you have a title and a billion-dollar company." He looked at her, surprised. "But you lied by omission," she continued. "You let me believe you were just a bookstore guy. You let me think I was building something real with someone simple, when all along, you were pulling strings in the background. I wasn't trying to control you, Emma, he said. I just wanted to protect you. From Sophia. From the system. From everything that would have crushed your voice before it ever had a chance. Her eyes softened. And I'm grateful. I really am. But Noah, relationships aren't built in the shadows. He nodded, swallowing hard. You're right. I need honesty, not just loyalty, she added. I need to trust you without wondering what else you're hiding. There was a long pause before he said, I'll earn that back, however long it takes. She looked away, then back at him. I don't know if we go back to what we were, but maybe we find something new, something real, with no secrets. His expression lifted slightly, hopeful. She smiled faintly. And next time you drop $20,000 on a food festival sponsorship, at least let me put your name on the brochure. Noah laughed, a deep, genuine sound. Deal. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the city, Emma turned to leave. By the way, she said over her shoulder, I accepted the position at Eclat, but just temporarily. He raised an eyebrow. Temporarily? I've got a bigger dream, she said with a wink, and it starts with my own kitchen. The smell of roasted garlic and rosemary filled the air, dancing over the soft hum of jazz and laughter. Emma stood near a gleaming stainless steel countertop, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back, plating her newest creation with steady hands and a fire in her eyes. This was her pop-up, her first independent culinary showcase, hosted in a repurposed warehouse on the west side of Chicago. Once abandoned, now bursting with color, warmth, and soul. The space wasn't just hers in name. It was hers in vision, in sweat, and in heart. The sign out front said, Emma Carter presents Kitchen Roots, and the line outside wrapped around the block. Inside, familiar faces moved between tables and trays. Friends, old colleagues, even Chef Renaud had shown up, giving a nod of respect before slipping out quietly. Noah, for once, stood beside her in full view, not hiding, not protecting from the shadows, just being there. He poured wine, carried dishes, helped reset chairs without hesitation. When someone whispered, "Is that really Noah Bennett?" he smiled, unbothered. Emma leaned in with a smirk. "Guess the secret's officially out." He chuckled. "I don't mind. I'm more interested in what's next." At the end of the night, after the last table had been cleared and the lights dimmed to a soft golden hue, Emma sat with Noah on a bench near the window, her apron folded on her lap. "You made magic tonight," he said, eyes gleaming. Emma looked out at the quiet street, then back at him. "I didn't do it alone." "You could have," he said, "but I'm glad you let me walk beside you." She paused. "It's different now. Having you here, fully visible." He nodded. "No more secrets, not even little ones." She laughed. "Well, maybe one. I still haven't told anyone about the chili and the truffle risotto." His eyes widened. "That's your secret ingredient? I've been guessing for weeks." Emma grinned. "Some things are worth protecting." They sat in silence for a beat before Noah reached into his coat and pulled out a slim envelope. She raised an eyebrow. "If that's another secret property deed, I swear." He laughed. "No, not this time. Just a proposal." He handed it to her. Inside, a letter from a local bank. Terms for a startup restaurant loan. Backed and pre-approved. No hidden names, no anonymous donors, just her. Emma blinked back sudden tears. "You didn't have to do this." "I didn't," he said gently. "You did. I just made sure the world could see it." She held the paper to her chest. "Thank you." Meanwhile, across town the culinary world buzzed. Sophia, disgraced and jobless, had been blacklisted from multiple establishments. Her attempts to shift blame had fallen flat. She was a cautionary tale now, a reminder that cruelty and ambition were not the same. Emma didn't celebrate her downfall. She didn't need to. Victory wasn't revenge. It was freedom. Weeks passed. Kitchen Roots gained traction and glowing reviews. Emma received invitations to speak at local women in business panels, to mentor young chefs, to share her story not as a victim, but as a voice. Noah remained by her side, always a step behind when she needed space, a step forward when she stumbled. They were rebuilding, this time with no scaffolding of lies. One night, after locking up the pop-up space, Emma turned to him and asked, "Do you ever wish you had told me the truth sooner?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Sometimes. But maybe we needed the truth to cost something, to mean something." She nodded, pressing her forehead to his chest. "No more masks," she whispered. "No more hiding," he replied. The evening air smelled of basil and summer rain as Emma sat on the back patio of her apartment, the soft flicker of citronella candles dancing across her face. It was quiet, a kind of stillness that followed not defeat but healing. Inside, the sound of a simmering tomato sauce bubbled gently on the stove. The door creaked, and Noah stepped out carrying 2 steaming plates of pasta. "I didn't burn it," he announced with mock pride. "That has to count for something." Emma smiled faintly, pushing her curly hair behind her ear. "We'll see. One bite and I'll know if you cheated with a meal kit again." He laughed, setting the plate in front of her. "Okay, maybe I had a little help from YouTube." They ate quietly for a moment. It wasn't awkward, just deliberate. Finally, Emma set her fork down and looked at him. "I've been thinking a lot about us." Noah's expression softened. "So have I. When everything came out at the gala, I didn't know how to feel. You weren't just some guy in my corner. You were running an empire in secret, and for a while I couldn't separate that from us." "I know," he said gently. "And I don't blame you. I should have trusted you with the truth sooner. I kept telling myself I was protecting you, but maybe I was just protecting myself." Emma tilted her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "From what?" He hesitated. "From being loved for the wrong reasons. From being seen as a bank account or a brand. But I think, deep down, I was scared I wasn't enough without all that." Her eyes widened. "Noah, I know it sounds backwards," he cut in, "but you saw me before you knew anything. You never needed the headlines or the title. That's why it mattered so much. That's why I was so afraid of losing it." Emma reached across the table, resting her hand over his. "I didn't fall for a CEO. I fell for the guy who showed up when my world was crumbling, the man who held my coat, remembered how I take my coffee, and never once tried to take credit for my wins." He exhaled, the tension in his shoulders easing. "But I need honesty, Noah," she added. "Not perfection, not protection, just you, all of you, even the parts you're afraid to show." He nodded slowly. "Then that's what I'll give you. No filters, no walls." They sat in silence for a beat, hands still entwined. Then Emma chuckled. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "I spent so long dreaming of having my own kitchen, my own name in lights, and when I finally got it, all I wanted was someone to come home to and talk about something other than food costs and pan sizes." He grinned. "So, not my killer carbonara?" "Oh, that's still up for debate." She leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder. "But yeah, I want both. The dream, and the person who believed in it when nobody else did." Noah turned and kissed the top of her head. "Then that's what we'll build. Together." The next morning, they walked hand in hand through the neighborhood, passing corner bakeries and farmers markets. Emma waved to a few vendors, now familiar with her face. A reporter approached, politely asking for a quote about her pop-up success. Emma smiled. "It's not about one event. It's about resilience, about community, about choosing the people who lift you, not the ones who tear you down. She glanced at Noah, who squeezed her hand gently. And it's about loving someone not for what they have, she added, but for who they are. The grand opening of Emma Carter's Hearth and Table wasn't flashy, but it was unforgettable. It wasn't held in a downtown skyscraper or a celebrity hotspot. Instead, the restaurant stood proudly on a quiet, revitalized block in West Chicago, surrounded by family-run shops and neighbors who had watched Emma's journey unfold. Twinkling string lights stretched across the outdoor patio, soft jazz played from an old record player, and the scent of roasted peaches and rosemary chicken drifted into the warm evening air. Emma stood behind the counter, wearing a simple linen apron with her name embroidered over the heart. Her eyes moved across the dining room, not to check for flaws, but to drink it all in. Tables were full, smiles were everywhere, and every dish that left her kitchen bore not just her flavor, but her story. Noah stood near the entrance, quietly greeting guests with grace and humility. He wasn't a CEO tonight. He was Emma's partner, her person. As the evening hit its rhythm, Emma stepped out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She walked over to Noah, who held 2 glasses of sparkling cider. "Want to sneak away for a second?" he asked. She smiled. "Lead the way." He guided her through a small side door that opened into the private garden, a tiny sanctuary she'd designed herself. Herbs grew in planter boxes. A swing hung from an old oak. Lanterns lit the space in warm gold. They sat on a bench beneath the branches, the hum of a celebration faint behind them. "You did it," Noah said softly. "This is all you." Emma leaned back against him. "No, this is us. Every step, even the messy ones, led here." He took her hand, thumb brushing her knuckles. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if Sophia hadn't pushed so hard? If I hadn't stepped in when I did?" Emma nodded. "Sometimes. But then I remember we weren't meant to stay hidden. Not me in someone else's kitchen, not you behind someone else's name." Noah exhaled slowly. "I still think about how close I came to losing you." "You didn't," she said. "You gave me room to be angry, and then space to come back." He looked at her then, truly looked, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you, Emma. Not for what you've built, not for your brilliance in the kitchen, but for your resilience, for your heart." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "And I love you for the man you are when no one's watching, the man who shows up, who listens, who stays." They kissed, slow and certain, not a kiss of beginnings, but of grounding, of trust, of permanence. Later, as guests toasted and laughter rang through the restaurant, Emma stood at the front with a microphone in hand. "I just want to say thank you," she began, her voice steady but warm. "Not just for being here tonight, but for believing in what this place represents. Hearth and Table isn't just about food, it's about home. It's about having a seat, whether you're starting over, rising up, or just trying to be seen." She glanced at Noah, who nodded gently. This story started in a bistro kitchen. It went through fire, betrayal, and heartbreak, but it came out stronger, brighter. The room applauded. "And one last thing," she added with a playful grin. "If anyone wants to know the secret ingredient in the risotto, don't ask Noah. He still thinks it's thyme." Everyone laughed, Noah loudest of all. That night, as they locked up together, Emma slipped her hand into his. "So," she said, leaning against his shoulder, "what do we build next?" Noah smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Whatever it is, we'll build it together." Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or brought a tear to your eye, that's why we tell it. Stay with us for more powerful stories. See you next time.